Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the show. Listen, I'm glad to have you guys here. Let's talk about Bitcoin. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the charts open right here, and I want to take a look at this article from Forbes magazine, which I thought was interesting. It says, "Is Bitcoin dead?" You know, and we've heard a lot of these articles before. Is Bitcoin dead? Do they really believe it's dead? If we move down here on the article, it says here, Bitcoin $100,000 plus, or Bitcoin to zero. Well, let's just take a look at one other thing here, and it's very interesting. Now, remember, this article's coming from Forbes. They're supposed to talk reasonable, you know? Let's take a look at this right here. Bitcoin is now being sold at over 5,000 French tobacco shops. So let's just take that argument about that Forbes just made, said Bitcoin's going to go to zero. Well, you know, if they're being sold at zero, which is free, if there's 5,000 French tobacco shops out there selling Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is free, well, the French will have all the Bitcoin. I mean, the very first morning that Bitcoin goes to zero, there'll be big long lineups at these 5,000 French tobacco shops, won't there? And there won't be a Bitcoin left, will there? You know, to me, that's just talking ridiculous. What is real reality? Not ridiculous. Let's not talk ridiculous. Let's talk real reality. Real reality is that we'll never see Bitcoin go down to zero. Bitcoin's here to stay. It's rock solid. It's more solid than the fiat currencies. The fiat currencies are actually in a much more position of jeopardy. So why don't we see articles in Forbes saying, will the dollar go to zero? Because they don't want to be laughed at, because everybody puts their faith in the dollar. But I'm going to tell you, there's an awful lot more chance of the dollar going to zero before you'll ever see Bitcoin go to zero. Now, you know, we got a halving coming up on Bitcoin not long into the future. Do we have a halving coming up on the US dollar? No, we got a multiplier coming up on the US dollar. They're actually going to multiply it. They're going to breed like tribbles on Star Trek. That's what the dollars are going to do. Do you remember the episode where Captain Kirk had the trouble with tribbles? And the tribbles were breeding everywhere, and there's billions of them? You know, we have species like that here on Earth, you know, different places where they breed like that, like mice. And there's a place up in the Antarctic, you know, where there's a little creature called a lemming, and they breed like crazy, you know. And then I guess they all jump off a cliff at a certain point, you know, when the lemmings get too many. But, oh, I heard cockroaches breed really fast, too. I heard a statistic, quite literally, that if you could start with 2 cockroaches, and if you offered them food and no enemies, no resistance, just lots of food, that in about 6 months, the whole Earth would be 6 feet deep in cockroaches. That's how quick they breed. Well, the dollar breeds like that. What we got going on right now. So Bitcoin is doing the exact opposite. If you guys don't know what the halving is, it means that they're going to cut the supply of Bitcoin in half. The supply that's coming from the miners, which keeps the market supplied with Bitcoin, they're actually going to quite literally chop that in half. Can you imagine if that happened to gold or silver? If next year they were going to cut off half of the mining supply, what would happen to silver or gold? So, no, Bitcoin's not going to go to zero. It's not going to go away. We're seeing a little bit of a bear market right now because Bitcoin, for the longest time, has been a speculative investment. Hasn't quite made the transition yet over into a safe haven asset. And because it's a speculative investment, people get nervous and they sell. They get nervous because they read articles like Forbes is producing that Bitcoin's going to go to zero. And it's understandable. So their selling pressure comes on Bitcoin. I see a rock solid floor under Bitcoin right now at 6,500. And yes, we could see Bitcoin go down a little bit. But like I say, let's talk reasonable. Reasonable talk is that Bitcoin will probably go down in the short term a little bit, and then it's going to start to go up again. That's reasonable talk, you know? And how high will it go? Well, I think next year is going to be a big year for Bitcoin. 2020 is going to be a big year for Bitcoin. But it's only going to go so high in 2020 before it's going to start to go into bubble territory again. Believe me, right now we're not even close to bubble territory. Bitcoin's not in a bubble anymore. It was in a bubble back when it was at $20,000. But Bitcoin's not even close to being in a bubble anymore. You know, that bubble popped. And Bitcoin price went all the way down to like 3,500 bucks. Bitcoin is going along, it's doing its thing, it's spreading, it's growing as time progresses. So let's take a look at the Bitcoin today and see exactly what it's actually doing. What we're seeing is I started this about 20 minutes ago, and the market cap was 224.2 billion. Right now it's 224.7 billion. So it gained $500 million in the last 20 minutes. Well, $500 million, but roughly gained $500 million in the last 20 minutes. It's a 66.9% Bitcoin dominance. We see the coin basically going along sideways. You know, this sideways momentum, if we're going to talk reasonable here and rational, this sideways momentum is probably going to continue a bit longer. And the bulls and the bears right now are evenly fighting it out, almost like a tug of war, you know, when you got one crew on one side, one crew on the other, and they're all panting and puffing, and they're pulling back and forth trying to pull the other guy into the moat, but they're not getting anywhere. The rope's just going back and forth a little bit. That's what the bears and bulls are doing right now with Bitcoin. They're pulling back and forth, tugging back and forth, and we see this tugging action. Eventually the bulls, I think, are going to get the upper hand. But the bears might get one or two more little goes at it before the bulls actually start to get a hold of it again, you know. So I got a price target at the end of this year of 16,000. Yes, I did get exuberant a little while ago, and I said 32,000. I really don't think it's going to make 32,000 this year. I think it's going to make 32,000 next year, 2020, but I don't think it's going to make it this year. So my price target is 16,000 for this year. Will we make it? Well, we're going to have to wait and see. But I think that it's going to catch more of a bid than it's got right now in this tugging action between the bears and the bulls. Bitcoin's been going really nowhere, just sideways for the last little while. So, you know what? Thank you guys for listening to this show. Really appreciate your input too. I really enjoy it when you guys get on there and you give your comments. I try to read all the comments. I'm just getting over being sick. I had a little case of the flu that went into my bronchial. I guess they call it bronchial tubes or whatever. And I'm trying to get over that. You know, put some of that goop on my chest. You know, that helps to bring up the stuff and everything, and makes you feel better and everything. And it's been drying up, but very slowly over the last couple days. You know, flus and colds. Why do we need them? We need science to come along and invent not a vaccination, but a real cure, so that we can knock out the flu forever, so we no more flus on the earth ever again. That's what we need, you know. But I don't know. I see potentially myself as the biggest threat to mankind. The biggest threat to mankind out there, to our very existence, is the flu. And it would be a flu like something like what was called the Spanish influenza. Could shut down basically the world to a point where we wouldn't be able to keep our system running, our food chains and everything else that supply food to your grocery store and everything else. With a really bad flu like that, it would cut everything down to the point where we wouldn't be able to function enough to actually keep society going, and society could go into decay. And we end up being, if you've ever watched these movies, like where it's a post-apocalyptic type of a movie, a flu could do that. It's about the only thing, other than, say, war, that could do that, but a flu could actually do that. And, a few years ago, okay, I'm straying off topic a little bit. I'm just talking to you guys a little bit, but a few years ago, some scientists dug up the Spanish flu and tried to revive it, from 1918. I think it was a very foolish thing to do, myself. When you get something that's that dangerous to humanity, you want to leave it alone. Anyway, listen, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.